Hey guys, it's Rook. So 2 days after I posted the leak video that I was very proud of myself for catching early, the whole box has been revealed and completely leaked. It was a sponsored video by Konami, and it was made by Lithium 2300. The link to that video is in the description below. The whole Battle City box has been spoiled. You can see every monster card, every spell card, trap card, skill cards, secret rares, all of them. That's in that video. If you guys don't want to be spoiled and want to have a nice surprise when you open the box, then I recommend you stop this video right now, and you also do not watch the video that's linked in the description below. But that's got everything you need, so it's all out there in the open. I wanted to particularly look at the skills. We saw all 200 cards come out, some reprints. The leaks were confirmed, some other rumored cards confirmed, but we had 20 skill cards. And obviously one of the key differences between Speed Duel and traditional Yu-Gi-Oh! Advanced format is the skill cards. So that's why I wanted to just kind of look at a little more depth, because just the sheer amount of new utility cards, characters it's a little overwhelming, but in a good way. So I just want to comment on all the skills that were revealed in Lithium's video, just to kind of emphasize how much choice there will be when this box comes out. The first one that's revealed is Yugi's Fury of Thunder, which plays alongside Slifer the Sky Dragon. You can activate this following skill during your main phase, either one during your main phase while you control Slifer the Sky Dragon, you can draw until you have 4 cards in your hand, or if Slifer the Sky Dragon is sent to the graveyard, you can shuffle it back into the deck. So this clearly focuses around the Egyptian god. And when the god cards were teased in the Battle City box back in July, when the whole thing was kind of announced, we knew there were going to be skill cards that were going to complement the Egyptian gods, because the gods on their own, it's hard to keep on the field, and it's hard to completely achieve a win condition with unless you have some sort of support, which we were expecting with skills. So Fury of Thunder seems like it's going to be your go-to skill if you want to run Slifer and build a deck around Slifer. You're going to shuffle it back into the deck from the graveyard, or you can burn your whole hand to get set up, but then everything's okay because Fury of Thunder gets you 4 cards back in your hand. Following the theme of the Egyptian gods, we have Kaiba's It's No Monster, It's a God. I love the image of Kaiba they use on this. It's very sinister. And this one, you activate your skill during your main phase, discard any number of cards, minimum 1. Activate the skill during your main phase, discard any number of cards, minimum 1. Then add 1 Obelisk the Tormentor from your deck or graveyard to your hand. This skill can only be used once per duel, so that's kind of what makes it not so broken. This is just an immediate Obelisk finder, which is great. You don't have to worry about getting Obelisk set up if you're building the Obelisk deck, because this is going to get it to you essentially early on. Very solid support. Really not too much else, if anything, that searches for the gods. I'm leaning towards an Obelisk deck just because it's just a complete monster, and this skill gives me hope that that's going to be a pretty solid deck. And of course, completing the trio of skill cards to support the Egyptian gods, we have Merrick's Hieratic Chant to support the Winged Dragon of Ra. This one's very Merrick-esque with Reckless Abandon. You activate the skill during your main phase, discard your entire hand, minimum 1, add the Winged Dragon of Ra from your deck or graveyard to your hand. And if you do, you can tribute summon 1 monster during your normal main phase in addition to your normal summon set. So the skill does a couple things. It gets you Winged Dragon of Ra from either your deck or graveyard. Similar to the other skills, if your Egyptian god gets sent to the graveyard, the game isn't necessarily over. You can keep playing. You can recycle it back in the deck. And this allows you to essentially do 2 normal summons, one of them being a tribute. We start thinking about 5 or 6 stars that we can get out right away without having to have something survive till the next turn to tribute for. There's a lot of options there. Additionally, something that comes to mind is you think of something like Double Cost, which already serves as 2 tributes for a dark monster. You can really set something explosive up. Additionally, this is, of course, here to support the Winged Dragon of Ra, so I think we're going to see Ra be able to get out easier. So there's Hieratic Chant. Those are the 3 skills associated with the god cards. I think it gives them all a fighting chance to be relatively powerful. Hard to tell for meta, but they all have a fighting chance. All right, Esperoba, here we go. We knew this character was coming. It's Jinzo, because Jinzo, of course, is released in this box. So this skill is Jinzo monsters you control are unaffected by your opponent's skill cards. Holy cow, so Jinzo was already broken because, of course, no traps can be activated. But now it's telling me that it's unaffected by my opponent's skill cards. Wow, I'm going to play Jinzo. Like, really, that locks down, aside monster effects and potentially spells, but this locks down a lot of things that can happen to Jinzo. So also, once per turn during your main phase, if you control Jinzo, you can look at a face-down card in your opponent's spell and trap zones, and if it's a trap card, draw a card. This is going to be pretty good. It's once per turn, and so far in the Speed Duel format, a lot of decks have been very predictable. If you're playing against Gravekeeper Burn, you know the sets are traps. I mean, you don't typically set spells unless it's going to be quick play, Offerings to the Doomed, or actually we're going to see some more quick plays here with Book of Moon and Cosmic Cyclone, things like that. Those are going to be great. So it gives a little bit of variety, but I think that this is going to be good because the decks, when the meta kind of settles in and decks get built, you're going to see some predictability around what they're running, spells versus traps. Side deck is going to be key here, I think. Try and mess with your opponent, especially if you're playing against somebody that has its Jinzo. The other Esperoba skill here is the Psychic Duelist. This one is very specific, and I mean, some of these effects, if you hit them, then you really are. It really just shows that you know your opponent's deck. Going back to what I said about some predictability with meta decks in the Speed Duel format right now, This one's interesting. I don't see it blowing up, but very interesting. I like that it was included. This one also has 2 effects. You activate one of the following skills during your main phase by paying half your life points. So you better be sure about what's about to happen next. You're paying half your life points. One is you can target a set card in your opponent's spell trap zone and declare one type, monster, spell, or trap. Then reveal the face down card, and if it's a declared card type, it cannot be activated this turn. And 2, randomly select one card in your opponent's hand and declare one type, monster, spell, or trap. Then reveal that card, and if it's declared type, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. That second one, right now, I really don't see the value in paying half your life points to do 500 damage to your opponent, unless it's just kind of an extra utility if you got them on the rope, since the last thing you need. But is it luck based? I don't think so. I think we're going to see some predictability in decks, but you got to be sure when you are targeting these cards, because you're paying half your life points, as opposed to something much more static and confirmed, like Inner Conflict. You're definitely taking a monster, for example. I'm anticipating the first bullet to be used more often to declare spells and traps, and even monsters in the spell and trap zone, and it can't be activated. So it's like just a mini Jinzo. Say you have Jinzo on the field, and you know they're running a spell that Jinzo can't prevent the activation of. Well, here's the Psychic Duelist for you. Interesting to see if this one's used, but I do like the concept, absolutely. All right, here's Odeon. Couple skills with him. We have Guardians of the Tomb. This one's during your opponent's main phase when the monster is special summoned from your spell and trap zone to your field while you have no cards in your hand. You can draw a card, and if you do, you can set a spell or trap from your hand. This skill can only be used once per turn. This is another once per turn instead of once per duel. So the cards that we did see coming through in the Battle City box does tell us that there will be some monsters in the spell and trap zone. This skill is all around having those monsters that you're going to special summon from the spell and trap zone, and then getting the card draw and the quick set from your hand there. A little circumstantial, and the value seems okay. You draw one card. Interesting to see if this one's used. All right, let's go back to Kaiba. We saw Union Combination here. This one is going to be helpful for your fusions. We're looking at XYZ Dragon Cannon in particular. You activate the skill during your main phase. Once per turn, you can fusion summon a light machine fusion monster. Hey, look at that. That's XYZ Dragon Cannon from your extra deck, using monsters from your graveyard or field as fusion material. For the rest of this turn, your opponent takes no damage. So it's broken enough that the skill had to say that you can't slam into your opponent with XYZ Dragon Cannon here. But I do like the utility as it allows you to take monsters from your graveyard. So that's a great one. Similar to what we saw like Thousand Eyes spell with Pegasus to get relinquished and Thousand Eyes restrict out more efficiently and effectively. Union Combination, that's going to be good for XYZ. Umbra and Loomis, interesting. Sneak these guys in with a skill. This is another bullet skill. You activate the following skills. If a ritual summon the masked beast you control is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon masked beast Des Guardius, which is actually a secret rare in this box, from your hand, deck, or graveyard, ignoring its summoning conditions. So the masked beast, yes, confirmed. It was rumored, it was confirmed now in the box, and now we have some serious support for the Mass Beast Des Guardius also. This is a 3,300 attack, 8-star monster, and just to get that out, to be able to get that out for free is super great. So the Mass Beast is already a pretty okay boss monster, but then you get Mass Beast Des Guardius, and it's just an onslaught of tough monsters for your opponent to fight. Additionally, the other bullet is you contribute a Masked Beast Des Guardius, then add one The Masked Beast and one Curse of the Masked Beast from your deck and or graveyard to your hand. Each of these skills can only be used once per duel. So here again, we are looking at graveyard to hand, graveyard to field. So there's a lot of recycling, a lot more recycling from the graveyard and or searching from the deck so that you get the monsters you want. So this one works very well with a Masked Beast / Masked Beast Des Guardius deck. That'll be an interesting one to see. Depending on how fast it is and how effective the skill is, could be a threat. Okay, we're on to the revealed Arcana skill here. We have Magician's Act. Activate one of the following skills at the start of the duel. Another bullet, but this has to be at the start. 1. Add one Dark Magician, deck to hand, then shuffle a card from your hand to the deck. So it's an automatic search for Dark Magician and you just replace it with a card. So you're already automatically getting Dark Magician here at the start if you are running this skill and using that bullet. The second one is shuffle one Dark Magician from your hand to the deck, then draw one card. During your main phase, you contribute one monster whose original name is Dark Magician to draw 2 cards. So the second bullet works kind of opposite of the first bullet. The first bullet is if you don't have the right hand and you need Dark Magician. The second bullet is maybe you have too many Dark Magicians, or you need to be able to get rid of something, or maybe it's worth getting rid of the Dark Magician for a chance of getting an additional card you need for the setup. So I like these skills that don't necessarily rely on, do you have a great hand? Yes, okay, well then this is going to work really well. This one kind of covers all your bases if you're trying to run spellcasters with Dark Magician. Additionally, just as an aside, I think that spellcasters monsters are going to be really good looking at this box, particularly looking at Breaker the Magical Warrior. That monster is so good in any deck, but the fact that it's a spellcaster is I think is gonna bump up spellcasters for sure. All right, the next card revealed, going back to Odeon, we have Endless Traps. Another interesting one that I think is gonna kind of be brushed to the side. I think that the Odeon skills are gonna be kind of brushed to the side, but I do like the concepts for sure. If you have exactly 3 traps in your graveyard, that's very circumstantial, hard requirement to fill. Randomly add 1 trap from your graveyard to your hand, randomly shuffle 1 trap from your graveyard into your deck, and randomly banish 1 trap from your graveyard. This skill can only be used once per duel. Like I said, really circumstantial. If you're running a trap-heavy deck, we might see a way to guarantee 3 traps in your graveyard early so that you can use this effect. But if you never get there, or you have to blow one and then you have too many, then this skill is essentially worthless. Additionally, I think that the Jinzo-based decks are going to be very strong, and I don't know how effective these will be. But Endless Traps is another skill there in case you want to keep the burn, the stall, and any of those annoying traps alive. All right, this one, no more Mrs. Nice Mai. We're back to Mai, and also I love the pun on the skill. Great to see a Mai Valentine skill after so long. Once per turn, when your monster inflicts battle damage to your opponent, destroy one spell trap on the field. Okay, so that's very simple, very straightforward. It essentially removes the need to run Harpy's Hunting Ground if you were running Mai with Harpies, although this skill card could be used with any deck. So if you have guaranteed ways to inflict battle damage to your opponent, whether it's directly or you know you're going to beat over things, then there you go, you have magic removal here. This is just face up once per turn that this can happen. If it was more than once per turn, then that would be a little broken. Like Hunting Ground is every time you play a Harpy, it's not just once per turn, you can always pop something. Notice that it says destroy 1 spell trap on the field, so it's not an option. So be careful here, similar to Hunting Ground. If you inflict battle damage to your opponent and your opponent doesn't have any spell or traps on the field, you're all of a sudden having to look at your spell or traps. So be careful there. Okay, and if we saw my skill, we're going to see a Joey skill, right? Joey's skill, I'm just going to attack. It couldn't have summed up what the next Joey skill should have been, clearly. Classic. Another bulleted skill just starts off with apply the following skills. During your main phase, you can make 1 monster you control gain 100 attack until the end of this turn. I don't know how great that's going to be. And during your battle phase, when your opponent activates a trap card, you can negate this effect and set that card. That's better. It essentially locks your opponent out from activating a trap because they know that whatever gets activated is going to be hit with this skill effect. Each of these skills can only be used once per turn, but this is just going to be another face up, and here are the conditions during battle. So the 100 attack, not too excited about. I do like the trap negation and have it set back, but I honestly think that the Jinzo decks are going to be more prevalent than this. For you Joey fans, it's viable. It's a way to shut down traps. We'll have to see if the meta shifts away from traps just because of all this hate on traps, but there's a Joey skill I'm just going to attack for you. All right, still going way back, we got skills from Ishizu. I personally haven't even seen an Ishizu skill activated in, what, a year? We just don't use her skills anymore, but here's a new one for you. You activate this skill during your main phase, special summon a level 4 or lower fairy monster from your graveyard in defense position, and gain life points equal to its original attack. This skill can only be used once per duel. So fairies are coming. They are a thing that we don't see fairies in speed duel format yet, but fairies are coming. One that personally comes to mind is we saw Dimensional Alchemist get confirmed. So to special summon the level 4 lower fairy monster in defense position, that might be a good target. And then, of course, you're gaining life points. Once per duel, it's okay. I think that once per turn would be stupid, of course, but it'd be interesting to see, combined with the potency of fairies, how valid this skill is. All right, going back to Yugi, we see Beasts of Phantom. This is going to be the skill card that supports Chimera, the flying mythical beast that we saw confirmed earlier. During your main phase, discard 1 card and then fusion summon 1 Chimera, the flying mythical beast from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. This one's very similar to something like Thousand Eyes Spell, and it's going to be similar support like we're seeing with the Kaiba skill for XYZ Dragon Cannon. It's just support to help you get the fusion completed faster, or with less rigid requirements. During your end phase, if Chimera the Flying Mythical Beast was fusion summoned this turn, you can add a Phantom Beast monster from your graveyard to your hand. Each of these skills can only be used once per turn. Once per turn, that's good. Now when it says you can add 1 Phantom Beast monster from your graveyard to your hand, there are a few cards out there that say this card can be treated as a Phantom Beast. A great example is one of the fusion materials needed for Chimera the Flying Mythical Beast, Gazelle the King of Mythical Beasts. If you see at the bottom, and there are a few cards like this, you see it says this card is always treated as a Phantom Beast card. So that's an example of a card you can get out with the secondary effect of this skill. So personally, Chimera, not a scary enough boss monster in my eyes. We have support for it. Could be a fun deck. We'll have to see. All right, and another Yugi skill, and we saw this one coming. This one's going to support the Valkyrian. We have Magnet Attraction. I also love the image they used for this. Bam! You don't see too many of those used really in general in Speed Duel. All the bam and pows wasn't used. Apply the following skills, another bulleted one. When a level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monster is normal summoned, you can add one level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monster with a different name from your deck to your hand. Perfect! This one helps you set up for Valkyrian. And reminder that Valkyrian doesn't require polymerization. It's not a fusion. It just comes together and it becomes Valkyrian. So the hardest part, I imagine, about the Valkyrian deck is going to be having to try and get all the Magnet Warriors and Valkyrian into your hand so that you can combine them and get Valkyrian out, which, like I said, very strong boss monster when it comes out. So this first bullet is going to help you get materials for it. And then the second bullet is you can reveal 2 level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monsters with different names from your hand. And if you do, add a Valkyrian from your deck to your hand. Each of these skills can only be used once per duel. So if your hand has Valkyrian, but you don't have all the Magnet Warriors, you need Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, then there's that first bullet that's going to help you complete that. If you got all the Magnet Warriors, but you don't have Valkyrian, and that's the only thing you need, if you combine them, nothing happens because you also need Valkyrian, the boss monster, well then the second bullet helps you get Valkyrian. I personally think I'm going to try this deck first because I really like the theme of Valkyrian and the Magnet Warriors in general. I think that this skill provides ample support. It's not too overpowered, but it's not lacking at the same time, and I think that Valkyrian is going to be a solid boss monster. As I mentioned in my previous video about the leaks, it's going to go toe-to-toe with Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth and maybe some other boss monsters that we're seeing here, but at the same time, it has the ability to break apart into the Magnet Warriors in case instead of one large attack, you're looking for small attacks to whittle your opponent's life points down. So Magnetic Attraction, that's going to be a good skill to look out for. All right, next skill that's revealed is the Power of Friendship. Taya really had to get a skill card snuck in here, didn't she? All it says is you take no effect damage from your opponent's card effects during your turn. Seems fine. Really got to go through all the cards just to see what threats are coming at us in terms of effect damage from your opponent's card effects. But my eyes kind of gloss over at this one. I don't see any real utility. Maybe it's a good side skill, depending on the deck that you're playing. But there's Power of Friendship from Taya. And then the final 4 skills are the skills that we saw in the Trials of the Kingdom release, the sneak peek that happened in last December, about a year ago now. So you guys should already be familiar with these. We have Ritual Party, Ritual Ceremony, Low Blow, and Digging for Gold. Those are all kind of like the secondary background characters in like Duel Links. We have Christine, Emma, Andrew, and David. So those all have okay effects. Really the only one that I ever used was Digging for Gold. That's the one where if you have 3 cards in your graveyard or more, you can banish one to draw a card. A little extra card draw there. I was using it for OTK potential. But otherwise, not expecting too much of a splash there. Probably most likely seen these already. They're up on your screen just to take a quick peek. But the effects are, they're okay. All right, guys, those are all the skills that were revealed. That's all 20 skills in the Battle City box. So I'm committed to continuing to dive into the box and see what's good. Can we form an early meta? Really interested in working with some other folks to try and get an idea of what is going to shake out. But I think I have some pretty good ideas of what I want to try as soon as I get this box. And I think the skills are a huge driver of that. So that's why I wanted to cover these immediately following my viewing of the box release, which, as I mentioned before, that link is in the description below. I heartily recommend you check that out. It's got all the cards revealed. More box stuff to come. Thank you so much, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to hit the like button and subscribe for more Battle City box info and Speed Duel content. Appreciate you guys. Catch you later.